To the second video on Geogebra. So you can click on your menu and click on New to get a new Cartesian plane. We're going to look at the slider. So where you see a equal to 2, we're going to click on that and click on slider. And I'm going to change the variable name to m is equal to 1. The lowest value for m will be -5, highest is 5. You can change that. And I want m to change or increase by 1, so I'm going to change that to 1. So we have a slider which is basically a variable, and in this case m is equal to 1, and I'm going to use the straight line as our example, y equal to mx, and you'll notice the value of m is 1. So using my slider, I'm going to click on the arrow, use move, and I can drag my slider and you'll see how it affects the graph. And we're going to go backwards, which in a straight line m represents the slope. So when the gradient is 0, you're seeing a horizontal line. And if I make the m negative, you see the direction of the line changes to a downhill from left to right. And if you want to take it to the beginning and you can press on play, you can see how the line changes according to the gradient. So m represents your slope, and we can stop it right there. And in this case we have y equal to 4x. If you click on the equation, it will give you in its variable form y equal to mx. So that's what we will be using a slider to see how each letter or variable affects the graph. I'm going to start a new project. We're now going to save this. And in this project, I'm going to use 3 sliders. So we're starting with the first one. And we're going to leave this as a is equal to 1. Start -5, 5. And I'm going to set the increment to be 1. Okay. I'm going to get a second slider in. And the second slider I'm going to call Q. And I'm going to set Q to be 0. And we're going to also set the increment to be 1. And we're bringing in a third slider. And this we're going to call P. And we're also going to set P to 0. Set your increment to 1. OK. So we're going to type our first equation for a straight line. Y is equal to ax plus q, where a represents gradient, q the constant or y-intercept. And you can see we have a straight line. And you can move your sliders if they're in the way. And if you don't want to see the slider, we can right click and take the tick out so it doesn't show on the Cartesian plane. So we have the first one. If I click on that, you can see ax plus q. I'm going to now bring in a second equation. And the second equation, we're going to say y is equal to a into x minus p, and we want a square. So I'm going to bring the GeoGebra keyboard in. Square plus q. Enter. And we're going to have a third equation, which is y is equal to, for a hyperbola. And in our hyperbola, we're going to use a divided by, you see I'm in the denominator. So we're going to use x minus p. And then I'm going to come out using my arrow key out of the denominator plus q. And then I'm going to close my keyboard. So I have my 3 graphs. I'm going to go back into the move mode. You'll notice 2 of these graphs are black. I'm going to click on one and I'm going to change that color to a shocking pink. Actually, you might not like the pink, so let's change it to blue. So we now have our 3 graphs. Y is equal to 1x. It's a ax plus q. And the reason why it showed you 1x is because q is 0. We have y equal to a into x minus p plus p squared plus q, and h, which is equal to a over x minus p plus q. Now, I want you to notice what happens if I use my first slider, which is A. So A is 1, and I change A to 2. You'll notice the movement on the whole 3 graphs. Bringing A back to 1. Let's now play with the slider called Q, and you'll notice by moving Q, changing the value of Q, all my graphs are being affected. Now, if you just want to see one graph, let's suppose we just want to see the movement on the parabola, we can click on the straight line, it will disappear. Click on the hyperbola, it will disappear. So now we just want to look at the value of A in the parabola, and you notice as I'm changing the value of A is now 3x squared. You'll see the branches of the parabola either come closer together or going further apart. If we play around with Q, see the effect of Q is the graph is moving either up or down. And if you want to get a good view, you can bring it to the beginning and just click on play and watch how Q affects your graph. And if I want to see how it affects two graphs, maybe the hyperbola and the parabola, we can do the same thing. Bring both in, and you can notice how the sliders are affecting it. And if I bring in the straight line, and we're going back to A and press play, and you'll notice how the value of A affects the graphs. I'm going to stop that, bring my A back to 1, and I'm going to look at a play on Q, and you'll notice all 3 graphs are moving up or down as the value of Q changes. So that is how we are going to use the sliders, and the sliders can show us the effect of A, P, and Q in the graphs. Thank you.